Every person is going to have their own specialized agent. You will have your own agent, I will have my own agent, and these agents are then obviously going to interact with each other.
Will that agent be able to do a job on our behalf and make money for us?
Whether it is the engineering or the product manager for that matter, or even the designer for that matter, they have to acquire the knowledge of how to work with the AI tools which are really coming out there.
When people say jobs in tech are going to shrink, maybe to some extent, but I also feel a lot more people are going to start companies, a lot more opportunities are also going to be there.
Don't necessarily need to have like a technology background in order to build the first version of the product. Whether it is a product or it is a designer or an engineer for that matter, is going to evolve.
If somebody has to think about building a career in tech, which roles should they pick and plan their career around? Hi Himanshu.
Hello Navneet, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Yes, doing all great.
Yeah, so finally we are here for our long pending discussion.
I know, right?
Yeah, and why not do it over a pod than in a cafe? Yeah. So, like I told you, we have an audience that wants to know how to build a career in product and tech, how to become a product builder, how to build a successful career, and that's what Airtribe does. Here in this pod, we would love to know more about you, what you do, and what your experiences have been like, what your learnings have been like, and what would be your advice for our audience if they want to be as successful as you, like a successful startup founder who has exited and is now playing a very active role in the ecosystem. So these are some of the things we will cover today. But to start with, it will be helpful if you can share what is AI Palette, what do you do, and how did you come up with the idea for AI Palette?
Sure. So I am the co-founder and CTO at AI Palette. AI Palette, to describe you in detail, it's essentially a B2B AI SaaS startup, which is actually now a Agentic AI startup.
Okay.
And we help the FMCG brands to identify what next product to launch in the market. So imagine you are a brand manager at Pepsi and you want to launch a new drink in the Malaysia market, or let's say Indonesia market. So you can come to our platform, you can discover what are the kind of trends, and you can identify the ideas from there, and then you can shortlist the best ideas out of the list of ideas, and then you can essentially feed that into your marketing engine, and you can feed it into the downstream part of it.
Very interesting.
Yeah, so this is what essentially we are able to do. The way to think about us would be, we are an alternative to the traditional market research process, which is a 100-year-old, decades-old, very manual process, where typically you would go to Nielsen and Kantar to really understand what next product to launch. And the process would take 3 to 6 months and even more. Using AI and AI Palette, we are able to compress that down to weeks and days.
Understood. It's an interesting problem statement. So you probably use a lot of machine learning and AI in all of this, right?
That's correct.
What's the future for people in engineering and product roles, according to you? Because both of us know, and we have discussed about it, outside the pod also. With the tools that are available now, somebody with agency can go ahead and build something.
Yeah.
But is everyone going to build? That's a question. But more importantly, where do you think these roles are going?
Yeah. So, I'm a big fan of history, and typically whenever I'm looking at what is going to happen in the future, I always go back in the past and see what has really happened.
You haven't seen mutual funds ads. They.
Yeah, probably. No, but I have. So on a serious note, right? Essentially, if you look at in the past, right, there used to be literal human computers. Right? There were people actually sitting down and doing all the calculations, and this used to actually happen in NASA. And there's also a great movie known as Hidden Figures.
I saw that one.
Yeah, you
that
might
was
have.
Such a great movie.
That was such a great movie, right? Yeah. And essentially you have all these human computers, and this was Afro-American women who would do the calculations in terms of the rocket trajectory and whatnot for the NASA, and all of this was happening manually, right? Now, of course, with the evolution of the computer age and all, that role sort of went away, But then that did not mean that the roles did not evolve, right? Now, what is the evolution? Today, using the same technology, that we have, NASA is able to launch multiple, rockets, right? And obviously their ambitions have gone from just landing on the moon to now starting to establish a colony in Mars and beyond, right? And of course, universe is such a large space, right? And there are so many discoveries and intricacies which are there to explore for the human as a civilization.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is obviously at a more macro level, but if I talk about the micro level, what I'm really trying to say is that for, any technology advancement, right, there is always an evolution of role that is going to happen. I mean, if you talk about 20 years back, maybe the web developer itself as a role did not even exist because the internet itself, the web was not there, right?
Yeah.
But now that role has started coming in. The product designer, right? That as a role did not maybe exist in the 90s or the 80s, right? But that has emerged. So I think it's only the evolution that continues to happen. And change is the only constant, as they say. So all of these roles, whether it is a product or it is a designer or an engineer for that matter, is going to evolve. For example, we had one of the features, right, which came in from a customer, and the request was something along the lines of that they wanted to download the dashboard which we had as a PPT, as a PowerPoint, right? Now, in this particular example, the product manager that we had, he actually collaborated with the engineer. He used Cursor, which is again one of the agentic tools.
Yeah.
And using that, he prepared like a first version itself of the
Very
download
nice.
of the PPT. And of course, he needed the engineering help also to then handle all the edge cases and take it forward to the scalable. But the person was able to work at least on the first version part of it.
Was the PM having technical background or?
Yeah, so in this particular example, the PM, I would say, had a bit of a technology background because he was a software engineer turned product manager.
Which helped.
Which obviously helped a lot. But I think the way these tools are evolving, that sort of understanding also is going to go away, where you don't necessarily need to have like a technology background in order to build the first version of the product.
Where do you think these two roles might end up a year or two down the line? And if somebody has to think about building a career in tech, which role should they pick and plan their career around?
Got it. Okay, so firstly, I would say that, to begin things off, that human beings are very bad at prediction, right? So whatever I talk about, this could pretty much turn out to be very, very different. But again, based on my understanding on what I have really seen, right? See, firstly, what I spoke in the in the beginning, which is that both of these roles, right, whether it is the engineering or the product manager for that matter, or even the designer for that matter, they have to be AI native. What I mean by that is they have to acquire the knowledge of how to work with the AI tools which are really coming out there. And that is a must. Even today, when we are hiring someone, for any of these roles, right, we ensure that we are asking them in the interview that which AI tools have you used, at least in the last 1 month, and what new things have you learned, right? This has become like a go-to interview question when we are interviewing these candidates. So that is one important requirement which is happening in all three of these particular roles.
Understood.
So you cannot escape the AI tools or the technology for that matter. So that's a base, right? Now, if I talk about how the roles itself are going to evolve, at least 1 year down the line, what I feel is firstly the team sizes itself, they are going to get compressed, right? Now, let's say today if you have a team of 1 product manager and let's say if it's a pod, right, and 7 engineers working on a particular feature, that might come down significantly to 1 product manager and 1 engineer as an example.
Okay.
Right? What I mean by that is in the previous example which I explained, that you will have the product manager may be able to get to the first version of the MVP of that feature or the product. And then from there, the engineer, the senior engineer, by the way, in this case, will be able to take it to the scalability and take it to a level of latency which is needed by the customer side of it.
Understood.
Right? And also build workflows in such a manner that the maintenance can be automated to a very large extent. Right, so this is where I feel that biggest change is going to come when you talk about the product manager and the engineering managers. And if I talk about the the designers part of it, right, I think the designers I still feel are going to be very, very relevant because see, while it is very easy now how to build it, what to build and how do you visualize is still going to be very, very human. right? So you still need to understand the experience from a user experience point of view and a human experience point of view.
Yeah.
And there's this world which is known as taste, right?
Yeah.
For the designers, they talk about it, right? So I think that
They talk about it quite a lot.
They talk about it quite a lot, right? So I think the designers having a great taste is going to be even more important, because they will have to design in all of this chaos, like, how do you ensure that the user experience comes off very, very naturally and very, very well, right? So the designers, again, are going to be very, very, like, important, and it will continue as a role.
So I feel something similar always happens when in the tech world, higher abstraction layers become more accessible. So I feel as we went from, let's say, a C++ era to Python and Java era, we had a lot more companies getting started.
Yeah.
And now with English being the primary language for many people to interact with these LLMs to build stuff, I think a lot more people will start things.
Yeah.
They will get some traction and then have, senior people join for, let's say, engineering roles or whatever. But for someone to quickly test the idea in the market or to do even product market fit, they might not need to build teams. So a lot more people are going to start companies. So I think when people say jobs in tech are going to shrink, maybe to some extent, but I also feel, as an optimist, I feel a lot more people are going to start companies, a lot more opportunities are also going to be there. The bigger question is, what kind of opportunities? What kind of roles? And for that, like I said, upskilling is very important. One of the things that we do at Airtribe is to find out, where people are going to struggle the most. Right now we see, like you said, AI native. Most people don't even understand the meaning of what is AI native. And we will spend some time on it. So how do we help more people prepare for the future? Basically, how do you help people fight for relevance? Some people know there is a fight to fight, but for many, they are not even aware of it.
Yeah. So I think if you have to talk about, like, where do we identify which is the area to play into, right? And I think you rightly mentioned, if I talk about the previous point, right, which is that there are going to be new opportunities that will definitely come up. That goes without saying, because today, if you look at it, there are still a lot of traditional companies, right, which have been operating in a very, you can say, tech-less way. And of course, like, with the AI, it makes it very easier to build like a AI layer on top of it and start building out, like, more and more opportunities on top of it, right? So that is definitely going to be there. But I think if I were firstly a product builder, what are the things that I would do, right? So firstly, I would obviously look at the upscaling part of it. I would also look at some of these boring and unsexy industries, right, which are there in the B2B part of it, while obviously the B2C is another area of interest. But right now my experience is more in the B2B, so let me talk about that a bit more. Now, some of these boring and unsexy industries, they have huge amount of data, right? And the way in which the LLMs have disrupted on how you can analyze this data and create more value out of that data is going to become even more important. Even for example, today, if you look at India as a country, right, there is not a single AI startup in the medical space which you can say has disrupted it, right? There are so many opportunities, and people were talking about it when the ChatGPT Health came very recently, right? That how it can really disrupt it. So I think there are enough opportunities if you look at all these traditional areas, right? Whether it is like a healthcare or whether it is agriculture as an example, or manufacturing for that matter, where there is lot more potential opportunities which are going to get created. And I think as a product builder, first is obviously upscaling, but then secondly also to understand what are the learnings you can apply from the other domains into these domains. Right? For example, in the fintech, there are already a lot of solved problems. Today, fintech is one of those sectors which is actively adopting the voice AI. Now that voice AI, the similar voice AI can also be included in rest of these domains as well, right? It's only about applying your product mindset on how you can solve it for, let's say, a domain like FMCG as an example, or a domain like manufacturing and the others, right? So I think that curiosity is still going to be very, very important, because how to build has come down drastically.
Yeah.
That has been democratized, but what to build is still a $1 million or a $1 billion question. And I know it, to the external world, it sounds very techie and like, people get scared with the mention of agents, but it's very simply a loop, right?
Okay.
Now, let me give you a very simple example, and which is a relatable example, right? Let's say if I ask you to book me a ticket from Bangalore to Delhi, and I give you my preferences, right? Do
Yeah.
like a window seat and do it in the early morning and get me the cheapest flight and all that with my preference for the airlines. Now, how would I do it traditionally? I would either go to the platform myself and do it,
Yeah.
and apply the different filters, or maybe I will tell a human agent, right, the travel agent, and the agent would then talk to me over a call and discuss, and finally they would do this particular ticket. Now, how would an agentic system work in this, for this particular process?
Yeah.
I will give it just a goal with my preferences. Now, it will automatically go firstly to the website, whether it is a Make My Trip or TripAdvisor or whatever the the relevant website.
Yeah.
It will apply the different filters, and every filter it will evaluate what is the impact of that filter, right? So, for example, let's say if it applies a filter of airlines, it will see which are the airlines firstly which are available, and what is the rating, etc. Then it will also look at where the window seat preference, etc. is there, and then it will also identify the cheapest part of it.
Yeah.
And there is a possibility, because there is a dynamic pricing that happens on these airlines, maybe during this entire process the pricing has changed. That could also happen. So the agent in the real time, it will understand that and recalibrate itself, and finally after doing all of that, it will achieve the goal, which is booking the ticket itself. So it will also have the integrations, etc., with your payment service and whatnot.
Yeah.
And finally, after finishing that, it will send an email, which will land up in your inbox, or it will add to your calendar as well, right? If you give
Yeah.
it the enough access. So I think the way to think about this is, all of this is like a loop, right? You are just giving it a goal, and it is going through these multiple step tasks, and finally achieving those tasks. Now, on this particular sort of question, right, I also get questions, or basically how do you differentiate this with the Gen AI, and how do the Gen AI versus the agent really happen, right?
Gen AI versus an
Gen AI versus an agentic system.
agentic system. What's the difference?
Exactly, right. So one of the mental model which I tell my engineering team also is that the way to think about a Gen AI is, it's like a function, right? It's like a function call. For example, the soft drink, and then similarly the South India is a regional filter,
Yeah.
understanding about which are the trends or the ingredients which it
Yeah.
has to go, right? So all of that is a multi-step process where it will essentially go to the different databases and the tables which are having this underlying information.
Yeah.
And it will combine all of that data and then finally provide the recommendation. Now, where
Understood.
the human really comes into the loop is, because initially there could be challenges where there could be some hallucination happening where it is not able to go to the right database, as an example, right? So you start providing all of that context. You decide that, okay, this is the database where you can find, as an example, the ingredients. This is the table where you can, and in certain cases it is able to figure out on its own, but there are cases in which it could hallucinate. So you provide all of this information, and which is where I say human in the loop, as in a
But do you provide this information in advance, or while the agent is trying to complete the goal or complete the process? Because when you said human in the loop, I thought for a user to get an output, the query has to go through a system where a human is involved. It will then go to planning stage.
Yes.
Then execute each step of the plan,
Yeah.
and then give you the output.
That's correct. Yes.
If you are not happy with the output, then you tell the system that, can you change this part of the game, which is what I would say is equivalent to building a new feature or removing an existing feature from a product.
Yeah.
Like in my case, I asked, can you add this additional level of difficulty where
Okay.
let's say you start throwing random new structures after every few levels. Then based on my input, the system will go ahead, make changes to the code, to all the files it prepared for the project, and give you a new system. Then you can go ahead and try it. Is it the right way to describe one more way of human in the loop?
Yes, of course. I think that's the way to think about it. Like, it's like a guided path in which it is asking you those clarifying questions.
Understood.
And then you are getting to the, to the final goal which you wanted to, which is building that Tetris game, right?
Yeah.
So there's this tool, Emergent. I don't know if you have tried that. And it is essentially one of the best tools when it comes to the vibe coding. I mean, among the universe of the vibe coding tool. And if you will actually go through it, right? I mean, they're essentially you can say the unique selling proposition is, or the USP is, that they get you more production ready compared to the other vibe coding tools which are out there, which may get you like a prototype but not to a production ready stage, right? And if you will go through the workflow that they have created, right, it's a multi-agent workflow, and it will ask you a lot of clarifying questions. And I think in that way, you are essentially able to get to your goal in a much better nuanced manner compared to the other tools which may make their own set of assumptions and then give you something which is very generic. So this has been at least my experience when I interacted with some of these vibe coding tools. I think Emergent turned out to be much better because it asked me a lot of clarifying questions, and then it got me to the stage where I finally it made it like a production ready stage.
Last week, this new system called, initially it was called Clawbot or something, then Moltbot. I think it's called Clawbot now. These introduced the idea of Swarm agents. Have you been able to experiment with it yet?
Yeah.
Any thoughts?
Yeah. So I have definitely done some experimentations again to the with all the security concerns that are out there. Have done it not on my local system but on a server, right, on a AWS or a cloud.
What's been your experience like? And is that what you called agent swarm?
So it's not exactly a agent swarm architecture, to be very honest, but I think it's more of a agent which is working in a local environment, right? You can think of it in that way, right? How do you have a local agent for the local system that you are working on? So the way to think about it is that, let's say if you want to connect with the different sort of ecosystems, right? Whether it is related to a tool like a WhatsApp or a Telegram, and you want to give access to that particular system, you can do all of that. So what I did was a very simple automation, right? So what I did is I connected it with my WhatsApp. I created like a bot out of it, and then I set it up to send me some daily reminders for having dry fruits, as well as I set up reminders to send to my mom that I am having breakfast, lunch and dinner at the regular time intervals, because that is the biggest worry. And I ensure that it is sending it at 9 a.m, 10 a.m, and then in the afternoon and then at the night, so that she doesn't have to worry about it. Right? So it was a very rudimentary way to do it. But of course, I think people are building much more bigger things with this. Of course, there are security concerns, so I would highly recommend not to do it right now on your local system. Do it on either a cloud server of sorts, which is which is separate from your local system.
Spare system that you don't care about.
Or a spare system that you don't care about, and that's where I think a lot of people are also doing like a Mac Mini and all of that.
Yeah.
So do it on that so that you don't have to get worried about the security part of it. But again, this is something sort of like a sci-fi. I don't know if you have. I'm sure you would have watched the movie Iron Man with the Jarvis system and everything, right? So I think we are slowly going into that. Where every person is going to have their own specialized agent. You will have your own agent, I will have my own agent, and these agents are then obviously going to interact with each other, and the agent will know each and everything about me based on the different tools that I expose it to, right? For example, if I expose it to my email or whether it is to my WhatsApp or to my social media, it will learn more about me than me. And then it can interact with your, with your agent, right? So I think all of that is obviously a bit of a sci-fi, but I think we are slowly moving into that arena.
I think that's happening. Will that agent be able to do a job on our behalf and make money for us?
I'm pretty sure that's where, someone will figure out a way to monetize it, because at the end of the day, that's how the economy functions. You will have to monetize it, because otherwise, what's the use of creating that agent if you are not able to? A very simple example I could give you in terms of, let's say, the CPG industry, right, or the FMCG for market research. assume that you have your own agents today. Now I could lease my agents for the market research process. That let's say if I have my own personalized agents, and of course, like millions of them have their own agents. Now a company like Pepsi, they might want to understand what is really going on in the lives of us, right? And we could expose a part of that insight using our agent, right? Where that agent could answer at scale that what are the trends which I'm interested in, what are the beverage trends which I'm doing, or let's say which are the brands towards which I have loyalty and all of that, right? Now all of that can then be used by the Pepsi brand manager to essentially synthesize a hypothesis and validate or disprove a hypothesis.
Are you saying that brand manager is going to take data from agents mapped to the actual people? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Yeah, and that's the way in which you can also get monetized, because whatever time that your agent is spending, by the way, you're not personally doing, but the agent is doing, that time can then be compensated by, of course, Pepsi, because they are getting the insights out of it.
That's crazy. Yeah. I never thought like this. Yeah. I think there is always this discussion of, in some of the great sci-fi movies, there was this movie, The Creator, a couple of years back, where they talked about, sell your likeness. Basically, you can sell your how you look, how you talk to a company which can monetize it. It has been part of sci-fi fiction for a long time. Sell your likeness. Many companies, even 11 Labs for that matter, I guess, has probably licensed voices of popular actors.
Yes, they have.
What you're talking about is crazier.
Yeah.
You're talking about an agent mapped on our personality, our knowledge.
Yeah.
Being used by some of these companies, and it can be monetized in the future.
Yes, and these agents will know us better than we know ourselves, because obviously they can go through tons of the data which as a human you might not, right?
We keep forgetting.
Right?
And we keep getting tired.
Yes.
And how we describe what we do and what we want to do, it's also a function of our mood.
And they can earn 24/7. They can be online 24/7. If there is a query from the customer, then they can answer it instantly, while we might have our own sleep cycle and whatnot.
And in personal life, how it might look like? Like we are talking about customers and companies, but let's say you and me, and instead of you and me talking to each other, is it going to be our agents talking to each other? What it will do to the human connection?
Yeah. So I think there is already a part of that sci-fi, playing out, with the Moldbot launch, right? What really happened is agents created their own sort of a social media, and then they also created like a
Moldbook or something.
Moldbook or something.
The agents were talking about humans.
Yes.
It was crazy.
And then they also created their own dating platform. Right? When I say the dating platform, essentially the agents, they started putting out the humans which had created them on that platform and started talking about that, okay, you should date this particular human.
Wow.
Right? So
how do you think it will, the whole fascination with using these AI chatbots to solve, to get answers to any of your questions, to speak with them all day long, how would it affect, let's say, personal lives or even mental health for people in the future? Any views on that?
Interesting. So, see, firstly, as we become more and more AI native, I think a part of us humans will still crave for those human experiences. And I think those human experiences are going to get more premiumized. What I mean by that is whether it is a wellness center or a detox centers, right? I mean, today a lot of people go for Vipassana, where it's like.
Is that the next big startup opportunity?
It could be potentially
waiting to be discovered.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely could be, right? Because today I think all of us are spending at least close to 10 hours or even more for that matter, just engrossed in our technology, whether it is in terms of laptop or mobile or anything for that matter, right? And I think a part of us still craves for disconnect from the technology. Right?
Correct, and that's why the rise of offline experiences, concerts.
Yes, exactly, right. So that explains why the concert economy or the experience economy, so to speak, is booming up. So I think that is going to be definitely we will crave for more human experiences, and they will have their own prices going up because today it's very cheap to to travel and do all of the human things that you want to do. But in future, I think all of that will start demanding a premiumization. Whether it is for a detoxification, whether it is for a wellness trend, and I
So
think
you are saying all of this will probably become more
more
expensive.
Yes, it will become more expensive.
Understood.
Yeah.
Because there will be a lot more demand for some of these things.
Yes.
So
Unless
yeah.
the supply can scale at the same level, which I don't think, because the technology is also moving and the demand is obviously increasing a lot more. I know people in my circle who have started going for these vipassanas very regularly.
And what about loneliness? How do you experience this yourself? How do you think people are going to experience it?
Yeah. So I think again, I think generation to generation that sort of changes. To be very honest, I don't think it will be a drastic change, and also it depends on the kind of geographies and societies. For example, US has been very individualistic in nature, while
Correct.
India, for that matter, always
India
had
and China, Southeast Asia, I think they are all very
they're
family-centric,
family-oriented.
community-centric.
Correct. So I think the way that it would impact these economies also, or the countries also, is going to be very, very different. While US may see more easier adoption, and I think that's already starting to
Correct.
happen as well, where you
Yeah.
have the loneliness and the other challenges coming up. While I think for a country as populous as India, I think that problem maybe will not hit us very soon. Maybe it will come eventually over a period of time, but I'm sure.
But it will be
by the
very
time-
gradual.
It will be very gradual, and
Yeah.
I think by the time maybe we might have our own ways to get us entertained, right? If not in being exactly near the people, but then maybe having them in a virtual environment.
That sounds like a possible future, actually. I kind of agree with you on this part about different societies adjusting to it differently.
Yeah.
I think in India we are very unlikely to face loneliness, partly because how intrusive our culture overall is.
Yeah.
Whether it is from the family side or friend side or whatever. I think most of us don't have to deal with not seeing people for a while.
Yeah.
It was very different in the US, where you would go to some cities and you just don't see anyone
Yeah.
on the road, for kilometers. It happens. In India, it never happens.
True.
You cross one junction and you have
only people.
a few hundred people just jumping over each other, somehow crossing the traffic. Thank you so much, Himanshu, for coming to the pod. I think it was amazing to speak with you. I learned so much. Reading about something on Twitter versus talking to somebody who has been building it is a very different experience. So thanks so much for coming to the pod and sharing all your knowledge, learnings with our audience. Hope to see you in the future again. But
Yes.
thank you so much.
Thank you so
once
much
again.
for the opportunity. Yes, really loved it.
So this was the Airtribe podcast for you. I had a lot of fun in this one. I hope you learned something new, and see you in the next one.